everyone, so I'm making a quick video about things that God has showed to me while I was on a 40-day consecration. So essentially what this means is that I was fasting from social media for 4 days to determine my next steps and where God wants to take me. And that has been revealed slowly over time, but what was interesting is that during this time God also showed me certain messages that pertain to this world. And so I wanted to give you a series of 5 messages, 2 of which will be combined. So this will probably be a 4-part video series in which I basically discuss what God has revealed to me in several dreams and basically the interpretation of that. So I'll be starting off with the first dream and then that interpretation, and then finishing off with the second dream and that interpretation. So for the first dream, this one was from March 22nd, 2024. And I had a dream that I was in the backyard of my grandmother's old house. It was weird because it was like I was standing in the field and simultaneously laying in the field with others. I then saw in that field that it became like a map of the United States, and certain areas of the map were marked for destruction. There was someone that was saying that nuclear warfare was coming to these areas. In that dream, after that pronouncement is stated, it seems like the attack begins almost immediately, and we were laying down as a way to take cover or brace ourselves for impact. So this is the other significant part of this, is that we had our faces uncovered, but our bodies were wrapped in blankets with radiation symbols on them. So then this dream switches over, and I see someone from my undergrad, and she seems to initially be talking about people winning an NIH essay submission, but then she starts saying that I and a few other people have the ability to stop the nuclear attack, and then it becomes a bit hazy at that point, but this is all I can remember from that dream. And so to go into the interpretation of that dream, it seems that God is indicating that there is a type of nuclear attack coming soon, or a radiological attack coming to the U.S. and certain areas in the U.S. It looked like it was the middle of the U.S. particularly, from East Coast to West Coast, would be targeted. So when I talked about the dream where the part of the dream where we were covered in radiation blankets, this seemed to indicate that you should make sure that you were covered. We may be able to stop it through various means, but I'm not sure if this is referring to me and others from the scientific community or me with unfaithful believers, but I believe it's the latter. So I believe this is basically saying that we need to make sure that we are praying and interceding on behalf of our nation, because of course things go on behind the scenes that we do not know about. And so if God has spoken to you about this as well, I encourage you to also pray and intercede. And so before I continue, one of the things that I forgot that I usually tell you to do is, of course, do not take everything that I say at face value. I think it's important to pray and seek God in prayer to determine if what is being said is true, and after that, what does God want you to do regarding this? And of course, if God has impressed upon your heart that this is something that you need to pray and intercede about, definitely do that. So the next dream that I will be talking about, so again, let me get back to it. The next one comes from March 26th. And so this one, I was in a wilderness area with a lot of people. It seems like I was initially in a boat with a group of people. It was brought to my attention that in the dream, perhaps by God, that 3 men had cups of bright yellow/golden liquid on their heads. I realized that this is poison or some type of an explosive, and there was going to be an attack soon. I make it out of the area and run into 2 women, and one on her own and another with a child. We end up going on a walk in the same park away from the area, and I end up telling them about the men on the boat and there was going to be an attack soon. We end up going to an entrance to leave the park. As we head for the entrance, we see a massive crowd of people heading toward the entrance to learn, and we see a massive group of people also heading towards the entrance to leave the park as well, and we also hear screaming and crying in the distance. We learn that the attack had just taken place. I get in the car with the woman and the child to leave the park, and that's where the dream ends. And there was one additional part, and I'm not sure if this was, part of the dream or maybe it was a part of another one. But it talks about the expansion of AI, essentially showing cameras everywhere and tracking faces, speeding violations, and yeah, essentially that's the end of that. And so the interpretation of that is that it seems like, according to this dream, that there's going to be a biological attack, most likely isolated in America. And so what is strange is that although the poison liquid was out in the open and visible for everyone to see, I was the only one who was able to see it. So part of the reason why I believe others didn't see it is because these men seemed nice and trustworthy. So ask God to give you discernment to see beyond the friendly faces that people put on. And so yeah, I basically believe that these are essentially warnings from God, that there are things that are soon to take place in America. However, I also do believe that God does give us the power to intercede and to even stop certain things, although we may not be able to stop everything. So with that, I'll end. But as I said before, and I'll say again, make sure with any word that you hear, you take it to God in prayer and determine if it's true, and also what does He want you to do about it. So with that, I'll end, and I'll see you in the next video.